Hello and welcome back. In this video, we will install Git, Docker and Singularity on Mac. We will also run a sample render scene to make sure our tools are ready to use for our future projects. Before we start installing required utilities, let me convey a few points about the choice between Docker and Singularity. As I mentioned in the introduction video, we need either Docker or Singularity installed, and it is completely up to you if you are using Mac or Linux. I personally prefer Singularity since it does not require the user to have root or sudo privileges. When you decide to render some of your CFD results in future using the things that you will be learning in this tutorial, you might be thinking to use your labs or company's resources with your boss's permission. Usually you won't have root access on your work machines or clusters, which is a serious limitation if you want to use Docker on Linux. Since it requires you to be added to a Docker group or you need to be a sudo user. On the other hand, with Singularity, once installed it doesn't require any special privileges for the user. It just works. I personally will be using Singularity throughout this tutorial. If you are using Linux or Mac, I would encourage you to use Singularity too. As long as you have a hardware and software that are not too old, all the steps that I am going to do here will work for you too. In this video, we will be finishing 4 tasks. 1. We will install Git. Next, we will install Docker, followed by installation of Singularity, and finally we will run a sample test and make sure our system is ready for our future projects. As a Mac user, you probably would be using Homebrew as a package manager. We will use this to install Git. In case you have not used Brew earlier, you can install it by executing this command. Once done, we will have Brew installed on our Mac. Now we can install Git by simply running brew install git. After it is done, to verify the installation, let's quickly check for the version of Git. It looks like we have it installed and ready to use. Docker team has made an application, Docker Desktop, available for us, which makes things straightforward to get it working on both Windows and Mac. We will get the Mac version. Note that you need to have at least macOS 10.13 for this to work. If you have an older version, you will need to install Docker Toolbox, which is not covered in this video. Let's search Docker Desktop for Mac. You may get the executables either from Docker Hub or from Docker's products page. The URL for this is made available in the description of this video under reference links. Scroll down this page and download the stable version. Run the installer and it will walk us through the installation process. Once the app is installed, we have to start it before we can use Docker. Press Command Space and look for Docker. We will see an icon on the top menu bar which shows status of this application. Once it shows Docker Desktop is running, we can verify for its version, just to be sure that we have Docker working on our machine. This shows both client and server, which means we have Docker installed properly and ready to use. If you are seeing only client part being displayed here, please make sure that the Docker Desktop is running by clicking on its menu icon. Just as we did install Docker, Singularity Group made an application named Singularity Desktop available for Mac users. Let's search for that and download it. The URL for this is also presented in the description of this video under reference links. Download this executable. We now have Singularity Desktop downloaded. Run the installer and it will walk us through the process. With Singularity, you may face an issue while running the installer. All we have to do is to allow the installer to run through, which can be done by clicking on Open Anyway through Security Settings in System Preferences. Once the operating system allows us to proceed with the installation, we just need to continue with usual steps to get Singularity installed. We have installed Singularity now. Unlike Docker, we don't need to start any application to have Singularity running. We can directly run some commands. Let's quickly check for the version. We have both Docker and Singularity installed successfully and running, and they are ready to use. Choosing one among these is up to you. I will quickly give a demo of rendering a sample scene file using both Docker and Singularity. First, we need to get mitsuba-renderer's Docker image. I have prepared an image already that we will be using in this tutorial, and you can also use this while rendering results obtained from your projects. This step of getting Docker image is only required once. We get the image by using this command. Now that we got required Docker image, we can quickly verify that we have it on our system by executing docker image ls. It looks like we have the required image. To make things simple, we will retag our image. This command creates an alias for the downloaded image with shorter form. That is, we can start using the image by referring it to just as mitsuba-renderer without needing to prepend with Docker Hub's username. To render sample scene, let's get that from our GitHub repository. I have created a directory in my home folder and I will be working in that for this demo. Let's clone the repository using git clone. Please note that you don't need to have prior knowledge of using Git. You can just follow the steps I will be doing here. We use Git only to make sure scene templates are up to date in our work directory. This is the repository of scene templates. We will be cloning this project. If you just want to download this, you can do so without cloning. If you clone this using Git, you can stay up to date with the changes without manually downloading this. I will be hosting more scene files in this repository as we work through this tutorial and update later with more examples. I would encourage you guys to contribute to this repository as you render more scenes. This is the place where more scene files will be uploaded later. Let's take a quick look at this folder structure. Scene templates is the root folder. It contains mitsuba-renderer, where we will store scene files while working on this tutorial. Scripts folder contains some scripts to help automating tasks. We will look at them soon. From within mitsuba-renderer directory inside scene templates, we will be running this command now. In case you are familiar with Docker, you can look into this script and see that all this is doing is to run a container to execute mitsuba. It's that simple. However, to make workflow easy, I have written a couple of scripts, and in the end for any project you will be working, all you will end up doing is to change a scene file through scene.xml and render.sh script to run rendering tool. I will explain this workflow in detail in the later videos when we start rendering our results. For now, let's simply run the script. As it runs, Mitsuba writes some details about rendering. Once it's done, an image is written out into images folder. If you could successfully reproduce what I presented here, then you have all the required utilities installed and ready to move ahead. Unlike Docker image, as of now I have not hosted Singularity image on any library. There are two ways to obtain this though. One, you can prepare it yourself using already installed Singularity and the Docker image that is hosted on Docker Hub. Two, you can download pre-built image that is made available for this location at this URL. Similar to Docker image, obtaining Singularity 1 is also required only once. First, make sure to go into your directory where you want to have this image stored. I want the image in this directory. Next, execute Singularity command. After we are done, we have mitsuba-renderer.sif here. If you prefer to download, please visit this site and download mitsuba-renderer.sif and place it in a directory of your choice. I am keeping everything in scene templates directory. Now that we have Singularity image, our task is to test it on sample scene file, just like how we did with Docker. Let's switch to mitsuba-renderer folder and run this command. Just as we did using Docker, this script also runs Singularity by executing render script. We will go through the details of what this command is doing in later videos. For now, we will just test it. There you go. After we are done with the execution, we now have sample image in images folder, just like how we obtained with Docker. Well, finally we are here. We do have all utilities ready to render our scenes. We did install Git, Docker, Singularity, and we also ran sample scene file. After this video, please watch quick overview video which describes briefly some Git and Docker commands that we just saw, and also the commands that we will be using most of the time in this tutorial. Seems like this video took slightly longer, but hey, we did it. Thank you for watching, see you in the next video, and please subscribe.